interesting fight in our co-main event of a card headlined by Pedro Munhoz and Frank Edgar, because our co-main event was supposed to be a middleweight showcase. You were going to get Uriah Hall, you were going to get Yoel Romero, all action type of fight. One of those ones that you could really hang your hat on as a possible performance bonus, because that would have been a barn burner. Instead, you get a weird fight between Ovince St. Preux and Alonzo Menifield, two guys that definitely didn't give the best account of themselves in their last fights, because for St. Preux, he moved up at heavyweight and took on Ben Rothwell in a fight that he just didn't do anything. I mean, he kept backing up. You thought that crazy head kick's going to pop out of nowhere, and nothing really happened.
But when he did do something, he would do damage to Rothwell, and that's the really frustrating thing about OSP. Not to cut you off again, sorry. But OSP, when he's actually doing stuff and being active, he is one of the better light heavyweights in the division. Not really, maybe not at this stage of his career, but at one point OSP was kind of one of those top dogs, and just a guy who, you saw him around in the top 10 forever. And he was a guy who, yes, on any given night, he'd be able to finish just about any one of the top guys. But this version that we see of OSP, when he decides to do something and really explode, there's still quite a bit of pop behind his power and behind his shots. But he just doesn't ever really choose to do much. He's a guy who, he'll go out there and he'll throw those big, really nice right high kick. He'll have some of those really nice straight punches that we know him for. And some of the big power behind it too, and get a knockdown. But the problem is he never really does anything after the fact.
And with Alonzo Menifield, you saw it. He was tested against Devin Clark. It was a fight where Menifield looked really good in the first round, and then after that, absolutely ground down to a halt. Now, I want to say this. Devin Clark's dad, or the father figure in his life, I think it was his dad, not a stepdad, if I'm not mistaken. That man shouted incredibly loud in their fight that was at the Apex facility. It was wild. A big win for Devin Clark there. Now, I know, listen, these are two guys coming off of fights where we had OSP to beat Ben Rothwell. I think we both agreed on it. We both had Alonzo Menifield to beat Devin Clark. So in that regard, it's a bit of a surprise again that this is somehow a co-main event of anything, because Alonzo Menifield, you knew it. From his amateur days to his pro days, his 2 amateur fights, both first-round finishes, his 9 professional wins, rather, all first-round finishes, even the one that was a doctor's stoppage at the end of the first. So Alonzo Menifield, tremendous power. If you want to see one of his crazier wins, go back to the Paul Craig fight. In a fight where Craig's striking was really wonky. He threw that weird spinning kick to the body. Menifield just clubbed him and finished his night. So it's one of those ones where, is Alonzo Menifield going to catch OSP when he's moving in? Is OSP going to catch Alonzo Menifield with counter coming in? If you asked me about this 2 or 3 years ago, and it's easy to say that because Menifield would have been so early on in his career, even for 32 years old, I would have said Ovince St. Preux all day. But it's not that cut and dry here.
This fight really comes down to who can make less mistakes, because both guys aren't really known for their stellar fight IQ. And with Menifield, that cardio is such a big question mark, because Devin Clark's not a guy who's going to make you push this crazy pace. And I know we're talking about guys at the top of the division, but if you fight Dominic Reyes, you have to be able to go 15 hard minutes at a minimum, and then probably 25. And Alonzo Menifield can't even show that he's able to do that hard 15, where he'll have that great first round, and then the second round, you could start to tell the power's starting to drain. Then by the end of the second round, he's a bit of a shell of himself. So as long as OSP can just avoid getting finished in the first round, and then sort of be able to work some of those body kicks, some of those leg kicks, some of those good techniques we've known him for, just kind of wear out Menifield, he should have the cardio edge, because OSP is smart with his... Again, he's not going to overly exert himself. That's never an issue you're going to have with Ovince St. Preux. It's going to be, can he actually do a little bit more? So I think if Menifield really goes out there, push the pace early, he's not going to be able to get the finish on OSP. And then as the fight goes on, OSP might be able to start opening up a little bit more.
Again, you have to be worried about the Ben Rothwell fight. And it's one of those ones that I wouldn't put my life on this fight. You wouldn't see Fight Night picks set in stone on this pick, because if you look at OSP, in his losses since 2014, a decision loss to Ryan Bader, your double champ with Bellator. Glover Teixeira, 3rd round rear naked choke. So we're moving into it. And Glover Teixeira, he's fighting the top of the heap still now.
That's the main event.
John Jones, he broke his arm in that fight. Ovince St. Preux did, and continued to fight on, losing a decision. 2nd round knockout against Jimmy Manoa.
Bad, to be fair.
Split decision loss to Volkan Oezdemir. Standing guillotine against Lear Latifi in a weird fight. And again, it's one of those things. He's a picture of inconsistency, which you hate to say about a fighter. And this, obviously, Ovince St. Preux. Dominic Reyes, he loses the decision. And 2nd round submission to Krylov. And then, of course, the split to Ben Rothwell. I thought Ben Rothwell won that fight for what it's worth. And with Menifield, again, does he blow his load in the first round, or does he ride it out? And he's one of those guys that we've seen. He has that first round ability. He finally got tested. What do you get here? Do you get the counter striking of OSP? Do you get the first flash knockout in the first round, rather, from Alonzo Menifield? I'd side toward Ovince St. Preux, but it's with the least amount of confidence. And I know we've had a few shaky ones on this card, but you have some really weird matchups here.
We do. And really, OSP, I just know what I'm going to get from him. And even though I don't really like what I'm getting every single time, I can somewhat rely on the fact that he's going to be inconsistent. And stylistically, this fight reminds me of the Tyson Pedro matchup for OSP, a fight where he got dropped early, then came back to win by armbar. Menifield fights very similarly to a Tyson Pedro guy, so maybe OSP can find some similarities between the two. Even at this extended age of 37, I got OSP winning this.
And the weird thing again about the odds in this one, they opened in favor of Ovince St. Preux around a -165. There's only a few sites that have odds, but so far they've shifted according to Best Fight Odds to a +125 in terms of OSP. So Menifield the favorite right now, hovering around a -150 or so. We're both going to side with OSP. He's the underdog at this point. Who knows what could happen from now to next week. This could be the first fight on the prelims. You never know. But we're really looking forward to it. You're not going to want to miss the rest of the predictions for the card, including extended look at our main event between Pedro Munhoz and Frankie Edgar. Keep locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. And as we always say, let's get into it.